You ready to do this, Matt?
Yes, sir. Punch it, Chewie.
Welcome, super friends, to the Fortress of Nerditude podcast, a safe place to talk about all things in nerd and pop culture. I'm Spencer Stapleton, and my co-pilot is Matt Shaw. We're two nerds that just refuse to grow up. Thank you for joining us. This is episode 152. We release every Thursday morning. You can find us on our website, fortofnerd.com. We have links to iTunes, Google Music, Spotify, YouTube, Stitcher, and everywhere podcasts are available. Stop by and relax a while. If you like what you're hearing, hit that subscribe button and get us automatically each and every week in your ear holes. Matt, another week has gone by. How are you? How is Lando doing? How is the world of having a new baby?
You know, everything's been pretty dang good for me. I'm sure Jesse would not always say great, but it's been just fine. I think we're all adjusting to our new normal and new roles pretty quickly. Lando's a good kid. Man, he's a good sleeper, but everybody is compared to Emmy. Emmy would sleep 20 minutes at a time, and it's hard. She was so hard in every conceivable way, which is why we were terrified to have another one, but we knew we had to. Can't have one little kid leave him by himself. I mean, you can. Yep. We just didn't. But he's been pretty great, not gonna lie. Not a whole lot of problems. He's kind of a thrower-upper, but what kid's not? You know, I think the biggest surprise for at least me has been how well Emmy has adjusted to it. She's like super nice to him and typically pretty understanding and hasn't had a whole ton of meltdowns or regression in her sleep or her development or her potty training or anything like that. So we've felt pretty blessed so far.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's been, you know, there's obviously adjustments, and especially in the mornings, right? With Jessie trying to sleep when she can sleep, and me now taking full control over Emmy until I got to do my work. So it's she gets a lot more TV, and Daddy takes a nap while that keeps happening. But depending on the day, I guess. But everything else has been like pretty smooth. We had a good week. We just kind of caught up on a lot of the shows that we'd been missing with in-laws here and obviously pregnancy and all of that changing, and so we got caught up on most of our shows in the evenings, and I got to play a little bit of Legend of Zelda Link's Awakening on Switch. I finished that up yesterday, so I beat that game. Yeah, it's
overall,
a short
what did
game.
you think of that?
Awesome. I'd never played it before. I never really was super into the 2D Zeldas. This one intrigued me because it was nice and colorful and it looked really cute. And totally worth it. Super fun. Highly recommended. Cool story as well. Very, very different than what I'm used to with a Zelda game. So I enjoyed it. And it's definitely like perfect for portable. You wouldn't want to play that on a big screen. There's really no advantage to that. So
really?
I just enjoyed playing it, you know, outside while Emmy was playing on her, you know, new little toys, and in the bedroom just hanging out while Jesse's feeding the baby. I got something to do too, so we're still together. So it's been fun. It's been a good week. That was pretty much what we did, though. I'm trying to think if there's really anything eventful, and the answer is not really. Well, I guess on Saturday we threw Jesse a little party. Not really a party, I guess. I wanted it to, but when you're pregnant, typically you're supposed to avoid sushi, certainly certain types of sushi. And Jesse and I are sushi connoisseurs. We love it. So on Saturday, we ordered a whole bunch of sushi, picked it up, brought it back, and had a big sushi party before we watched some college football. So it was fun. It was a fun weekend.
Wow. That sounds like a good time.
It was good. It was good. But, you know, nothing beats a day like a Star Wars trailer day. But more on that later, I guess. Right. How was your week?
My week was pretty darn good for the most part. The rough times of this last week actually were a little bit today and then some over the weekend. So Jackson and Charlie had to go in for flu shots today. And Charlie started crying beforehand, and he didn't he was okay up until we got in there, and then he saw someone getting a flu shot and saw the needle, and he started kind of crying. But he wasn't loud crying. It was kind of quite I just don't want to do this. I'm like, I know, bud, it's okay. And so they said, okay, look over this way, look at your dad, and I count to 10, and he was like, 1, 2, ow! And then he was like, and then they were done. And she's like, you didn't even get to 3. And he's like, yeah, not a problem. Except
Awesome.
Jackson. Jackson. I love this kid to death. But when he does not want to do something, he does not want to do something.
Yeah.
And he was I had to put him on my lap, and then he was fighting it so hard. I literally had to almost set him so he was standing up so I could wrap my legs around his legs, because he was kicking the table that the nurses were using. He knocked the table into his brother. Stuff was flying. So I had to hold his arms down, and he was screaming no. And gosh. This is at the elementary school. There's all these other kids watching, and they're starting to freak out now because Jackson literally, he fights like he's fighting for his life. You would think that he was getting a lethal injection, and he's trying to stop that. And so he did that. He also did that over the weekend when we tried clipping his toenails. And I was like, what is going on? And I think part of it right now is that also he has a wart on his foot. And so we've been using the kind of that nitrous freeze kind of, deal to try to kind of freeze it out. And then we use the little liquid medicine you put on there.
Yep.
And he hates how much it hurts, and he knows it. So he fights it. And not only does he we have to hold him down, but not only does he kick, but where the wart is, it's right kind of where his toes meet the ball of his foot. Okay. So he also has figured out that he can curl his toes down to protect that area too. So not only do we have to pin him down and hold his legs straight, I also have to pull his toes back and oh my gosh, the kid has monkey fingers for toes. It's just so freaking strong, that kid.
Yeah.
So we had some of that went on. That was the less than pleasant stuff that kind of happened over this last week. But the kids, we did take them to a birthday party for a kid. So it's kind of funny. Charlie has a friend in his first grade class that also goes to the same daycare. His name is Logan. Well, Logan wanted to have Charlie over, but we don't know Logan's parents. They just moved here 5 months ago from England. The husband's in the Air Force. And so they invited Charlie and Jackson to come to their Logan's younger brother's birthday party at this skating rink fun center thing. So we got to do that over the weekend with the kids.
Nice.
And the kids had a good time, and we got to meet a bunch of the other adults that kind of knew some of the kids and whatnot. And so that was okay. But it's kind of one of those things where you're kind of forced into a 2-hour conversation with adults you don't really know. Yeah. And the only thing you have in common is their kid knows your kid from school.
Right.
While it's okay, and I'm okay in those situations, after a little while it's it just feels all the get to know you chit chat stuff is all right, well, you start looking at the watch. How much longer does this thing really have to go?
Yeah.
Hey, we got to go to Costco. Come on, let's hurry this up. That sort of thing.
Right.
You're inventing excuses.
Of course.
But they had a good time, and it was fine. But it literally, though, was one of those moments where it was just kind of yeah, okay, whatever. Let's just, it's 2 hours. I can do anything for 2 hours. So there was that. So I've been streaming. You know this. We've talked about this. I've been streaming on Twitch. I finished Spider-Man. I've got the platinum.
Yay!
So I got the platinum. That was big. Woo! I was excited for that. And then I started The Witcher 3. And that game is cool. That game is really, really cool. So I've been streaming some of that. But then on Saturday, evening, I decided we have all these, late Saturday afternoon, early evening, right? I decided we have all these apples that I pulled down off of our own tree, And I was like, maybe Brita, I should try to make an apple pie with it. I've never made an apple pie. And I wasn't going to go the full, like, hog of, like, I'm going to make my own crust.
Sure.
So we bought store-bought crust.
Yeah.
But I also then decided I'm going to try to stream myself making an apple pie. And so I set up my Surface Pro in the kitchen and had a webcam on it, and I got all the stuff I needed, and I kind of preheated the oven, and then I just fired it up, and I totally even forgot to put out on social media that I was doing this. So it was literally, you only would have known about it if you follow me on Twitch and you have your notifications turned on.
Yeah.
You would have got an email or something saying like, hey, S. Stapleton 79 is now live. And I basically titled it Baking an Apple Pie, something like that.
Right.
But I forgot to change the tag for the game, so the game still said Witcher 3. So I was having friends of mine jump on. They said, this doesn't look like The Witcher. I was like, I know. So then eventually I just called it like the Witcher 3 Apple Pie DLC.
There you go.
And I even went in and renamed it. But
yeah.
it was kind of cool, start to finish. Like I made everything. I sliced up the apples. Made up the kind of caramel sauce that I was putting in with it, all live. And from the time I did all that to, like putting the pies in the oven, it was going to be like another 40 minutes of like clean time, or 40 minutes till the pies would be like able to come out of the oven, basically. And so I cleaned up and just kept talking and interacting with all the people that were watching in chat, all the super friends that were there. And then I realized it was like 7 o'clock at night, and the kids hadn't had dinner, so I made them hot dogs live on the stream.
Love it.
And then the kids got a little excited, and they wanted to be on, so they were trying to just ham it up and get on where they could be seen. And so there is that. Their mom's like, I really don't want them being live and on the internet. I was like, yeah, I'm not planning on having them in there. And then we realized we forgot dinner, so I did that live and this, that, and the other. And I took some extra apples and made like these like little sugared cinnamon apple slices, and kind of Brita wanted me to bake them to try to like dehydrate them, so I put those in. Anyway, like start to finish, it was like 2 hours of everything.
Nice.
And so it was a good time. It was a lot of fun. It was something different. So I just tried streamed something different. But I had a good time with it and had a lot of interaction, and it was just a lot of fun. Nice. It's definitely something I think I would consider doing again. Doing some kind of these random like miscellaneous streams where I'm not necessarily just streaming a game, but maybe doing something else. Like I would consider even doing some like barbecue streams. Mm-hmm. Now the only difference is if I did a barbecue stream, I would probably do all the prep work, show what's going on, and then like come back like hours later when it's actually done, because I'm not going to try to just like, BS and talk to people in chat for like 14 hours while I got a brisket going. Yeah. Like I'm going to go to bed. I'm going to go to sleep. Yeah. Anyway, so I did that. That was a lot of fun. Other than that, it was just kind of a normal week. So
awesome.
And we do have a little something you and I will talk about after, but we do have a little surprise in store for next week, a special guest or two.
Oh yeah.
And so we'll talk about that, but that's just a little teaser, a little hint, a little taste of what's to come. So that was my week. Matt, should we how to put this? Should we decimate some Bothans in a murderous fashion?
Yes, I've got my thermal detonators ready.
Ooh, let's do it. I always have to let you know, many Bothans died to bring us this information.
Rest in peace, you Bothans.
All right, Matt, we're into Rebel Intelligence. Your thermal detonators have completely obliterated the Bothans this week.
Yes.
What do we have going on?
So let's start out with our good friend Sam Raimi. Most of you know him from the original Spider-Man trilogy. He is making a new horror film. First one since 2009. He's teaming up again with Columbia for the first time, I think, since Spider-Man. And there is no definite story yet. However, it's being written by Mark Swift and Damian Shannon, who, as far as horror movies goes, they wrote the reboot in 2009 of Friday the 13th, which I have not seen. But however, this week, interestingly, I did watch like 5 Friday the 13th movies just because I'd never seen them before and I wanted to see how bad they were, and they're bad, guys. Anyway, maybe the reboot's great and Mark and Damien will really kill it on this new film with Sam Raimi. But it is being described as Misery meets Castaway, so you can expect obviously some type of brutal isolation. And apparently Columbia picked this up immediately upon it being pitched, like same day situation. So obviously they loved the idea and did not want that idea being pitched anywhere else. Sam Raimi's attached to it. So, and we've got some horror writers attached. So we'll see where this one goes, but keep an eye out. This one should be interesting.
I mean, Sam Raimi really started his career as a horror director.
Yes.
I mean, he started with The Evil Dead and then did Army of Darkness, which was kind of like a continuation of that Evil Dead series. And then he ended up landing Spider-Man. And I remember when he landed Spider-Man and they said, Sam Raimi, the guy who brought you Evil Dead. And I went,
right.
The horror movies? Like, because when they made that first one, like they were in college. It was like a college film project that they did or did around that time. And then eventually they basically remade it as as Evil Dead 2 and they got more, more funding and whatnot.
Right.
So for me, when he jumped to doing comic book movies, I kind of thought that was a little crazy because I was like, well, this guy's kind of like a horror guy. But then, of course, those movies were great. And then he's, jumping back to horror now.
Yeah, he's been involved in some horror stuff in the past. This is his first time directing since 2009, but he's been involved in, like, there's a new Grudge movie coming out next year that he's been involved in. Don't Breathe 2, which is coming out. He's been involved in as a producer. Don't Breathe, the original. So he's had his kind of hands in it, but this is the first time, since 2009 that he's really been all of his hands in it, if that makes sense. Yeah. Since Drag Me to Hell, that was his last one. So, and some TV stuff here and there for Ash versus the Evil Dead, but this is his baby. So we'll see. It should be fun. I like horror movies, so I'm always interested.
You'll have to let me know how that is. Yeah.
What do you got for us, Spence?
Okay, so remember a little while ago we were talking about the new Batman movie, right? The Matt Reeves Batman movie. And we talked about how Robert Pattinson has been cast.
Yes.
Well, there's been a whole bunch of rumors kind of flying around here in the last little bit. And this week we got some definitive casting for this upcoming movie. So it had been rumored that Jonah Hill was rumored to be playing potentially a role. Originally they were talking about that maybe he could be playing the Riddler.
Yes.
Because it's rumored that the Riddler could be in this movie. Then it was also talked that he could be playing the Penguin, because potentially the Penguin could be in this movie. Well, apparently Jonah Hill's out, but Paul Dano is in. So Paul Dano has actually signed on to take the role of the Riddler. He's not going to go by the name Edward Nygma, which is kind of what we've usually seen, but he's going to be called Edward Nashton, which you can still see as an E-N, Edward Nygma, Edward Nashton.
Mm-hmm.
So changing it up just a little bit, because obviously if they called him Edward Nygma, if they're trying to kind of keep the fact that he may be the Riddler, like partially through the movie, anyone who's comic book nerds are going to say, oh no, this is going to be the Riddler, right?
Yeah.
Kind of feels like a dead giveaway.
Yep.
Paul Dano, you might know him. He was in the movie There Will Be Blood. He was also in Little Miss Sunshine. He was like the kind of the awkwardy teenage boy in that movie. He's been in some other stuff. If you see him, you definitely would recognize him. I think he's a really good actor, but he's going to play the Riddler. And I'm trying to think like if I can imagine him in that role, because the Riddler is always like, how to put this? Batman villains are always very over the top.
Yes.
Right? I mean, Joker obviously is extremely over the top. Riddler's way over the top. Even in a lot of depictions, Catwoman's kind of over the top. She's a little muted down sometimes, but sometimes a little over the top.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got like, the Penguin. I mean, the Penguin is literally like a walking caricature of someone, right? So like big things. And like, I always kind of look at Paul Dano as more of like a more serious character actor.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he's going to do with like he's not going to be the Jim Carrey version of the Riddler from, Batman Forever,
I hope
right?
not.
I mean, it's not going to be that. Although
that wouldn't work for him.
I really liked Jim Carrey in that role because to me the Riddler is like ridiculously like over the top, crazy, like flamboyant and just like nutty.
Yes.
And so I don't know about this. I like Paul Dano though.
Yeah, to me this is more indicative, I think, of where the film is going to go. Because they don't cast Paul Dano thinking of Jim Carrey's version of the Riddler, right?
No.
So you say this is going to take maybe a more serious and darker tone on the Riddler. At least that's what it says to me. Because like you, I love Paul Dano. In the movies he's been in, he has been phenomenal. I just watched 12 Years a Slave a couple of weeks ago, and he's in that movie. Along with a bunch of the other movies you mentioned, he is so great. But he's much more serious. There's not a lot of ha 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 ha. More like creepy ha 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 ha. Like the Scarecrow
he's not a comedic
in Batman
actor.
Begins, kind of a ha ha ha
Yeah.
ha. So to me, I get what you're saying. It is kind of an interesting casting choice. And so I think it's kind of directing us to this is how this is going to be. This is going to be maybe a more serious, darker look at the Riddler, and less of the 80s and early 90s versions of Batman, and more like Christopher Nolan. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. The other casting that was announced was Zoe Kravitz, Lenny Kravitz's daughter. She's going to be playing Catwoman.
Yeah.
And I think that looks great. Now, I'm going to say this. I'm going to hit this quick, but I don't want to talk about it a lot because it's people on the internet. There was a lot of people on the internet that got all bent out of shape about the casting of Zoe Kravitz. And basically everyone that got bent out of shape really shouldn't be getting bent out of shape. They really shouldn't. It very much has some very racially motivated, nasty undertone to it. And I just want to say this. Characters can be played by anyone. By anyone. We have seen some amazing characters that have been portrayed in books, played by, completely different actors or actresses in movies that have done fantastic jobs. Same thing with comics. We have had black women play Catwoman before. Eartha Kitt in 1966 Batman movie. You had Halle Berry in the Catwoman movie. I mean, there's no reason that we have to ever say one character has to be a certain gender or a certain race to appear in a more modern version. Like, that doesn't have to happen. I go back to Hamilton. I love that musical. But they literally took every role that literally was old white men from like the late 1700s, and they cast them with a very diverse cast. Mm-hmm. And did that take away anything from the musical? Absolutely not. It was beautiful. It was wonderful. Like it's this. I love Hamilton. Like I can't talk enough good about it. But changing the cast, the racial mix-up, changing roles around, that didn't bother me one bit. And it shouldn't bother anyone. We should be open and accepting to saying, we're telling a story. The medium that we tell it through and the vessels we choose to tell it should matter a lot less than the actual story we're trying to get across.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my soapbox. I didn't really want to get on it, but just I saw some things that just really disgusted me this last week about her casting. I think she's going to be excellent. I'm looking forward to her portrayal. And anyway, that's that. Enough said.
Love it. Amen. Amen. So the last thing I've got is also about the Batman from Matt Reeves. So this has to do with the composer. And this is a unique situation. So a video was released, and I'll tell you the contents of the video here in a moment. But Matt Reeves is looking for somebody to be composing the Batman. And Michael Giacchino.
Giacchino.
I'm gonna pretend. I'm gonna say that like I know how to use the accent correctly. I had a concert, and he's also the composer of Cloverfield, which Matt Reeves directed, and so they've got a familiarity about them. And so after playing a song from Cloverfield, anyway, Matt Reeves came up because he's the director of it, and they were talking back and forth and having a good time. And then Matt Reeves gets down on one knee as if he were proposing to Michael and asked him, "Will you compose the Batman?" And yay, clap, clap, clap. Good feelings everywhere. So we know who it's going to be now. I doubt that was a surprise to Michael. I'm sure that there were already talkings behind the scenes and dealings had been dealt. But this is kind of a fun way to get that released, I guess. Interesting way to get it released. So we know that Matt Reeves and Michael Giacchino, and just so you know, Michael Giacchino also has done Zootopia, Up, and Ratatouille.
He also did the 2009 Star Trek with J.J. Abrams.
Oh.
He's actually done a lot with J.J. Abrams. So he's done that. He did like Alias. He did some of the score for Lost. He did The Incredibles, the score for The Incredibles. He did the Partly Cloudy Chance of Meatballs stuff. And then also recently he's done Rogue One and Spider-Man Homecoming, Coco, and Incredibles 2.
So he's been all over the place.
He's been all over the place. In my opinion, he is kind of like the heir apparent to John Williams. Like, when John Williams hangs it up and is done, I think Michael Giacchino will be the most sought-after composer.
Right.
I mean, because he's doing lots of big stuff right now. I mean, I remember the 2009 Star Trek, the first one that J.J. Abrams did. And I remember going, man, this is amazing. It almost sounds like John Williams, but not quite.
Right.
And I had to go look it up. And I was like, nope, not John Williams, but Michael Giacchino. I'm like, that's pretty good stuff.
Giacchino.
There
you go.
I'm sure it's like totally nothing like that at all.
We've both botched it, probably.
I know,
It's
sure.
probably not Giacchino. Who knows?
I know, it's like probably like Giancio or something like that. And we're like, Giacchino,
Jay.
Michael. Hey, come to Sicily, score us some music.
Oh, very nice.
Horrible Italian accent.
That was, I'm sure we'll get some love on our, profiling.
Yeah, all of Italy just stopped listening to this podcast right now.
Anyway, it sounds cool. I'm all for it. I'm really interested in the Batman because Batman is cool, okay? He's cool. He has not been cool in the last, 10 years, though. And we need him to be cool again. At least in my opinion, he hasn't been cool. Ben Affleck didn't make him cool. I'm not a hater of Ben Affleck. He did a fine job, but those movies were crap.
Yeah, the movies were rough. I think Ben Affleck did a good job in portraying the older Bruce Wayne, the more mature Batman, the later years Batman. I thought he did a good job of that. But the movies were rough. There wasn't a lot for him to work with. And he didn't even get a feature, right?
No, he never really got a movie.
He was Batman v Superman, so he got kind of half billing there. But I mean, still, Wonder Woman shows up in that thing. And then Justice League. And then he was in Suicide Squad for a hot minute.
Yeah.
And now we've got, the Joker movie that came out that's not in the DCEU.
Has nothing to do with him.
There's another Joker movie, I think, planned that's supposed to be coming out somewhere down the road with Jared Leto. I mean, we're getting all this stuff. And I was like, Ben Affleck couldn't have got a solo Batman movie in that time? Anyway. I'm still a little out on Robert Pattinson, I'm not going to lie. Honestly, what it's going to take for me, I'm going to tell you what it's going to take for me. It's going to take a trailer.
Yeah. Okay.
For me to really be sold on whether or not he could be Batman, it's going to have to be a trailer. And it can't be like one of these trailers where they're going to, show a bunch of darkness and a bunch of crime in Gotham and everything else and then save the last 3 seconds of the first teaser trailer to show him silhouetted against the moon.
Yeah.
Or to hear his voice just barely I'm Batman. Not something like that. If it's something like that, the first teaser trailer is not going to hook me.
Right.
And I'm going to be even more off on his version of Batman. But if they show it and they show him playing Bruce Wayne some, and they show some of Batman, and you get like the more action and not like the mysterious, we're going to try to hook you with the mystery of Batman. We know Batman's dark and broody. I know that. You know that. Everyone that listens to this podcast knows that. Everyone in the world knows it. Let's be honest. Give us a little more. They do it right, and I'm sold on his performance in a trailer. I'm definitely be more likely to be on board with the Robert Pattinson train.
Yep. I was going to say, I've come around to Robert Pattinson. I first heard it and laughed out loud because of how ridiculous that seemed to me. But now that I'm thinking about it, I'm going, oh, because he is, at least in the movies that I've seen, he is kind of dark and brooding. Whether that's in, obviously, the Twilight Saga or when you think back to Harry Potter, he was always kind of mysterious and strange, and I don't know, we'll see. I agree with you about the trailer, though. It's everything else about Batman. They've mishandled Batman recently. I don't know how they, I don't know, we'll see. But I like Paul Dano, though. That does make me more confident, that because when they were circulating around that Jonah Hill was going to be in it, I was like, oh man, I don't know about this. Yep. But Paul Dano, I'm like, yeah. Okay. Who else? Come on. Oh, Zoe Kravitz. Right. Oh, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Come on.
They got to get a good Alfred in there.
They have to. Okay. And this is where Batman 89 suffered for me. Alfred was not that cool in that movie. He was only in it for like 5 minutes, and I'm so used to seeing like Mike. Oh my gosh, why am I drawing a blank on his name? Michael Caine, right?
Yeah, Michael Caine.
I'm used to seeing him.
Michael Caine.
He is incredible.
Well, they definitely beefed up his role in those movies and gave him more to do. Whereas in the 89 Batman, he was just kind of he's there, almost more of like a nod to the comic book fans, not actually as like a really
fleshed out
motivator
character
of the story and fleshed out character.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I need to see a nice, cool, I'm into it, Alfred.
Nice. Okay. I got you. All right, last thing I had. We've talked a lot about Disney doing live action remakes of their animated movies. I'm going to talk about a movie here that I don't know that I'm super keen on this one yet. Once again, this is going to have to be a trailer situation for me. They're going to do a Pinocchio live action movie.
Okay.
And I've seen some kind of like live action Pinocchio type movies in the past.
Yeah, with Drew Carey, right? Is he back as Geppetto?
Right. There's that. There's also, I was thinking of the one with what's his name? Roberto Benigni, who played from the movie Life is Beautiful. He played like a Pinocchio.
Oh, yeah.
So like there was that. Like, so in my mind, I have some of these less than stellar representations of kind of live action Pinocchios.
Yeah.
But they're going to take the Disney 1940 animated classic and they're going to make it into a Disney live action movie. They have found their director. They are bringing Robert Zemeckis out of retirement or wherever he's been.
Okay.
And he's going to be the one that's going to be helming the film. Now, if you're a fan of Robert Zemeckis, you're immediately going to know that name because it's going to come to your mind from Back to the Future, because he's the director that did the Back to the Future movies.
Yes.
So we know that now he's signed on. I guess, Matt, apparently about a year ago, there was big talks that Tom Hanks could play Geppetto, but apparently Tom Hanks has passed on the role, so that's not going to be happening. And so we don't know really anything other than the directors, but the main characters they're going to have to cast is Geppetto, Pinocchio, the Blue Fairy, and then they're going to have to do something for Jiminy Cricket, which in my mind is going to have to be, a voiceover actor.
Yeah, it has to be Cricket. Yeah.
You're going to have to nail that, right? You're going to have to get a real good voiceover actor.
He might be iconic number one.
Yeah,
maybe
probably.
Iconic number one in all of Disney's stuff, right? Everybody knows Jiminy Cricket.
Well, yeah, because Jiminy's kind of like, he's an icon for Disney.
Yeah.
I mean, they've used him in all sorts of stuff. I mean, I remember watching the what do they call it, like the Wonderful World of Disney on Sunday nights, and like Jiminy Cricket would come out and like introduce the movie or introduce, you know, whatever short or live action thing that was being played.
Yeah.
And they're gonna have to do that right. I mean, there's some other characters they're gonna have to cast, like Stromboli. But you know, that's kind of like a ham-fisted, mustache-twirling villain. Like,
Right.
I think they'll be able to cast that fairly easy. But getting a good Jiminy, getting a good Geppetto, a Pinocchio, and a Blue Fairy, that'll be the key.
I agree. I'm interested in this one. I always like that kind of darker. I like horror. I like the darker stuff. I was disappointed. I mean, I still haven't seen Dumbo. And
Yeah.
I was excited about Tim Burton being at the helm of that movie, but with all the crap reviews it got, I didn't want to taint my view of Tim Burton again, because he either hits home runs or he just sinks crap to the ground.
Yes, he does.
I'm like, yo, man, just get consistent. Anyway, the Back to the Future director, and I looked at a couple other movies that he said. He has done some darker tone movies too. So
Sure. Yeah, sure.
I'm interested to see where he takes this, because Pinocchio is a creepy freaking film in every way.
yeah,
It's scary.
more than you remember.
Oh my gosh, just going through the Pinocchio ride at Disneyland, you're like, was this a horror movie? Like, holy cow, it's scary, man. So I'm hopeful that they keep it scary, to be honest. Maybe not the same way of like imprisoning children who are, you know what I mean? I don't know how they're gonna do that movie. I'm interested. I mean, I don't know how they do it though. Weird. It's gonna be weird.
Yeah, I like I said, it's a little far out there. I don't even think there's a release date on this thing yet. I think there's another. There is another Pinocchio movie that's going to be coming out in 2021. It's not the Disney one though. It's this one being done by Benicio del Toro. No, Guillermo del Toro, not Benicio. But his is supposed to be like a stop motion version.
Oh.
And it's going to be made for Netflix.
Oh, double O.
So yeah, it's not. I'm not anticipating that to have the feeling of the
Darn.
Disney stuff.
I was like, God, Guillermo del Toro? That's going to be awesome. Never mind. It might be good. We'll see. Who cares? Whatever.
All right, that's the last thing I had. You had one other, right?
Oh, yeah. Just a brief mention to everybody out there. So Disney Plus is coming out soon. I'm sure we'll talk more on this podcast about Disney Plus once it's released and what we're watching and how that's all working. And but what we did learn this week is that new shows will be released weekly. We already knew that.
Right.
However, they will all be released on Friday. So
Really?
all the new shows will be released on the same day as of right now. Obviously, when the streaming service premieres, all the first episodes will be up. So you don't have to
Which
wait
is like
until
Monday,
Friday.
November 11th.
Yes. So I think then the 15th we get another episode. So episode 1 will be on Monday for all the shows that are releasing. So The Mandalorian is included in that. The High School Musical show, which we all know I'm excited about, will be included in that. And then the following episode will be on the 15th. And so every Friday from then on out until that series ends, that they will be releasing on Fridays, and new shows will be obviously coming in and circulating. We don't have any information on kind of the whatever that one is, like This Day at Disney, where they go behind the scenes with the Imagineers.
Right,
That premieres on like a
yeah.
Wednesday randomly, and we're not sure. We don't know all of the kind of the way that's going to work, but we do know Mandalorian Fridays, except for the week that Rise of Skywalker is released, and that will then be released on Wednesday to not interfere with the Rise of Skywalker being released on
Why
the
do you
9th.
think they chose Fridays?
There's the most time for people to watch shows over the weekend. That's my immediate gut reaction. You choose Friday, gets people excited for the weekend even more. You spend Friday night watching your shows, or Saturday watching your shows with your kids if it's premiering some like a show you watch with your family. That's what makes sense to me.
That's interesting, just because like I think back to like the old good days of TGIF, right?
Yep.
When like Friday nights actually like seemed to be a decent night for TV, you know, good ratings. But like in the last couple decades, like any show that's like on a Friday night usually is a show that's on its way out.
Agreed.
Like
they're going to cancel it.
Yeah, they're just going to get canceled, right? At least on network television. And so for me, I always just kind of feel like Friday is like the day that like the garbage airs.
Yeah.
And so I guess you're probably right though that with the streaming service, because it's going to be there, like it's going to remain on their service. But if you release it on a Friday, it gives people the chance to watch it over the weekend, so that maybe get the most eyes versus like if you dropped it like on a Tuesday, like when video games and like movies and music, you know, releases.
Yep.
Maybe you get more eyeballs on that initial weekend versus like on a random Tuesday.
Yeah, and if you're watching The Mandalorian, comes out on Friday, nobody's talking about it at work on Friday. They're talking about it at work on Monday. You have the whole weekend to make sure that you watch your shows that you're watching, and you avoid spoilers that way. I think it makes sense. I kind of wish it was more spread out so I didn't have shows piling up. Assuming there will be enough shows on Disney Plus with original content that they will be piling up, but I also understand that methodology. That's the word.
Yeah. My wife and I had a conversation, Brita and I, just the other night ago. We were saying that really most of the reasons why we still have like television included with our internet package is because it was fairly cheap to add it on and to keep our internet prices high. Like, it's almost like just for like an extra like $20 a month on top of our internet price, we get all the shows. But we realized her and I, the two of us, only watch basically Survivor, maybe one or two other shows. But most of the stuff we do watch ends up on Hulu or Netflix or somewhere else.
Yep.
And so really the only thing is for the kids, because they like to watch the Disney Junior stuff that all kind of funnel into their Disney Now app. Mm-hmm. And if we got rid of the cable, we would lose almost all that content. But if all that content is going to be available over on Disney Plus, man, as soon as that Comcast contract is up, I'm going to switch just to internet only. Because there'll be no reason to keep the TV service.
Right.
So
we'll see.
So I'm excited to see November 11th. We're going to get a real look on whether or not we can get rid of that. Because if we can, that'll save us some money and help offset the cost of like the $3.57 a month I'm paying each month for the next 3 years.
That's right.
So anyway, well, that's the last thing you had, right? I'm out.
That's all I got.
All right, let's move on. So last week, Matt, we had a really fun conversation about Disneyland and amusement park rides that we could see turned into movies. I'm not going to lie that I've actually thought about it even more since then, just because it was just like I started thinking more and more about, what about this and what about this person and da-da-da-da-da-da-da. And so anyway, so we asked our super friends, what they thought, if they had any ideas. And we have a single answer this week. Must have been a busy weekend because usually we get to hear from a lot more of the super friends, but this week we get one from Peter Christensen, which is over on the email, forthenerd@gmail.com. Feel free to drop us a line there. Peter says, "Dear nerds, regarding Kevin Feige's promotion to Supreme Overlord, or whatever his title is, I think it'll be great, and I agree with the points you made. The jarring discontinuity... Gosh, I can't even read tonight. The jarring discontinuity... All right. I'm sorry, Peter, but I'm just skipping that word because apparently I can't put it together. The not continuity between Star Wars 7 and 8 is the ultimate warning in favor of having an overlord, along with the iterations of Spider-Man, Batman, and the X-Men. Directors seem to burn out after 3 movies. While Feige's position can bridge both time and span of movies, the single point of failure is a valid concern, but he has spent a decade building up what is likely a team of hundreds implementing his vision and preferences. Apple's design under Johnny Ive had a similar structure. He was the face of design, but he had a team of a couple dozen that worked with him, most for 15 years plus, and since his departure, Apple devices have continued with that beloved design style, while shaving off some of his idiosyncrasies. I'm much more concerned about everything starting to feel the same. Marvel has had great success working different directors and genres into their formula, from the Infinity War epics to the Winter Soldier spy thriller to the Ragnarok wacky buddy comedy to the Doctor Strange bad LSD trip. But there's no mistaking a Marvel movie. Repeating what I said last week about Spider-Man 2, I really wish there were more consistently good superhero movies outside of the Feige-verse. I love hamburgers, but the world would be a sadder place without tacos. Zoltan What's-His-Name can dream of trying to shake down all of American media. The Linda Policewoman show looked and sounded very 80s, but nothing like the X-Men song except for being from the same era. I hope they don't give a dime of hush money on a gross fishing expedition.
Fair.
I think that's totally fair too. He says, I deeply love Band of Brothers in the Pacific, and my grandfather was a bomber pilot in World War II, so you can bet I'll watch Masters of Air. But complaining about $5 a month is silly. That's the cost of one iTunes rental. I agree it is the cost of one iTunes rental. Guess what though, Peter? I don't rent on iTunes.
Yeah, neither do I.
I just don't rent much anymore. I figure eventually it's going to come to a streaming service that I already have. Or I just don't see it because I've got so many other things. But I do get it. It's $5 a month. It's not a lot. My wife and I actually had a conversation about this. So if we get rid of Comcast and get rid of television, like the only show we really religiously watch is Survivor. And I think that's like $5 a month for CBS All Access. So literally we could pay for CBS All Access for 2 months, pay $10 and watch our show versus having to pay that extra money month after month after month for 2 years. So $5 a month, Peter, you're probably right. It probably is a little silly. But I'm an old man, darn it.
I'm still going to complain.
I don't want to get on my soapbox.
Scrooge McDuck, man.
Get off my lawn! Anyway, Peter goes on to say, we've been watching a show called Gallivant, a musical comedy about a heartbroken knight and his quest to regain his true love. The actor who plays Gallivant is very rugged and handsome, and I think he'd be great to play the lead in Matterhorn, with Seth Green as his nerdy companion. I also nominate Robert Downey Jr. to play Mark Twain in your Riverboat movie.
Oh, man. He is killing it with casting. I think he's talking about Tim Amundsen. I think he's the one who plays in Gallivant. I'm pretty sure that's who that is. And he is rugged and handsome, and he would be fantastic in the Matterhorn film. There's no doubt about it.
Nice.
He's great. He's a great actor. He's had a stroke, though, so...
In real life, he had a stroke?
In real life.
Oh, wow. That's
yeah, he's in Psych. That's the reason I know who Tim Amundsen is because he was in Psych, and they had to cut him from Psych the movie because he had a stroke, and then he's kind of a little bit more involved in Psych the movie too, but yeah, the strokes kind of put him out of commission right after Gallivant was canceled. I think it only got 2 seasons. I feel bad.
That's too bad.
Poor Tim.
Peter goes on to finish. He says, Disney parks aren't really my thing, but I'll give it a try. I really liked Soaring Over California ride, and I think a historical epic along the lines of Australia could be fun. And who better to play the lead roles than Mark Paul Gosselaar and Tiffany Amber Thiessen? Although Mark Paul is playing the governor of California in the Saved by the Bell reboot, weird. Cheers, Peter Christensen. I kind of like the idea of the Soaring Over California ride. I really actually liked it when it was Soaring Over California, not Soaring Over the World.
I think it went back.
Did it?
I think it did. I think it went back. I'm not positive on that.
I really like the Soaring Over California just because Disney's California Adventure is definitely... Everything's themed to be, California.
Yeah.
Right? And so the idea of having a ride basically to fly over like all the different parts of California, which is super, super different. One part to the next. I mean, it's got like all these like climate zones and, cultures and whatnot. Anyway, I love that ride. Favorite part though is flying over the orange groves.
Yes.
It reminds me of being there when I was in my early 20s.
So
However,
cool.
I like the idea of like transforming that, but would the movie though be like have to do more with the aviation? Because that's the whole idea of the Soaring Over California ride. Like you go through there and you see all the aviators and test pilots. Would it be about that and have like an aviation kind of theme, or would it be some sort of like, different kind of journey through through the region and the country. I don't know. I like the aviation idea.
It's Top Gun 3.
No. I'm thinking more of like the Rocketeer meets the right stuff.
Oh, wow.
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay, cool.
I love the Rocketeer. I love that like California feel of that movie.
Coming to Disney Plus.
Also mixed with like the test pilot stuff of the right stuff with Chuck Yeager.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking.
That sounds good to me.
Maybe a test pilot like flies up to Northern California and is going to turn back around, but then his plane goes down and now he's got to like hike through the terrain and make his way back to to like the Southern California area. I don't know, something. I'm just spitballing here.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah. All right. Well, that was the only response we had. Super friend Peter Christensen dropping in this week. So we thank Peter this week for his response. Super friends, we do look forward though to reading your answers each and every week. We're at all the places we're kind of usually at, which is our email. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/FortofNerd, Twitter, which is @FortofNerd. We're on Instagram, FortofNerd. We also have a voicemail, 801-477-7687. You can leave us a voicemail, and we play those on the podcast from time to time. Matt, how can the Super Friends interact with us this week? What can they do?
Well, Super Friends, dust off that cocoa motion, that cafe latte maker, whatever it is you cook your hot cocoa in. Pour yourself in some whole milk, a little bit of that Swiss Miss. Get yourself some whipped cream, maybe some marshmallows, and pour yourself a hot one. Put on some smooth jazz, grab your guy or your gal, kick your feet up, and listen to the Fortress of Nerditude, yo. When you're done, scrolly up or down, give us a like, a subscribe, and a review. 5 stars, please. That's what you can do for us this week.
I feel like we have to play some Barry White music in the background right now. Grab your guy or gal. Scrolly. I'm like, what is going on here? What are we talking about?
This
is a family show, Matt. This is a family show.
Hey, it's a family cozy atmosphere. Yeah, your kids are there too. Maybe. Maybe not.
Maybe not yet.
Oh, man.
Did I mention it's a little late?
It's a little late. Be safe out there, kids.
Future kids. So, Matt, big day today.
Yes.
Big day today. In our world, this is, I don't know, this is like the Super Bowl. Well, okay, not quite. But this is like the NFC Championship game. Right? It's the last big event before the big event.
Yes. Oh, it's like Thanksgiving.
Right? So obviously we're going to talk tonight about Star Wars. We're going to talk about Rise of Skywalker. Because the final trailer just dropped literally like an hour before we started recording.
Oh, yeah.
So good.
Oh, my gosh.
So first things first, along with the trailer, tickets went on pre-sale. Tickets went on pre-sale today.
Yes, they did. It's a very stressful time for a Star Wars fan.
Do you feel like we're getting a little too crazy with the whole pre-sale ticket thing?
No.
Really?
I say no. I have purchased tickets within the first 5 minutes for every Star Wars movie since The Force Awakens. I've stayed up late if I've had to stay up late. I've refreshed my page 1,000 times, but I'm one who gets super anxious if I am not going to see Star Wars before or at the same time as everyone else. I get worried, like really worried. So for me, the pre-sale, I mean, I don't care when the pre-sale is. It could be 2 weeks before, it could be 2 months before, like it is here. But I like the pre-sale because I need to know that I am definitely going. It helps me calm down.
I'm okay with the pre-sale, but just like 2 months out to me seems like, I don't know, it just seems a little excessive. Like, why not do the pre-sale a month out or 3 weeks out? Like, what does doing it 2 months out by the studio, by doing it that far out? Or is this just a traditionally, we're going to do this far out to kind of help keep the hype increased and kind of keep the pressure up in the media?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. This is a hype thing. Because in my mind, I was going to mention this a few weeks ago on the podcast. Where is Star Wars? We have not heard much about the Rise of Skywalker other than 2 like little teaser trailers with very little information. We had a Force Friday with some toys, but revealed really nothing. It wasn't that big. So to me, it's been like way quiet on the Star Wars front, and I have been dying to get excited, but I've had very little to get excited about.
Right.
And so when tonight hit, I started to get like anxious and excited. I had like 5 tabs open to 5 different movie theaters on my computer. It was refreshing. So for me, it works from a hype and marketing standpoint. I was like way over the top, and I watched the last like 40 seconds of the game at halftime so I could watch the trailer as it was being released on TV. And oh my gosh, everything is great. Life is good to be a Star Wars fan. Now, the reason I think that pre-sale for me has always been a big deal is because I want to make sure, obviously, that I see the movie, but I want to see it in my favorite theater or the best theater. There are limited amounts of IMAX screens in a given area, and depending where you live, there may not be any IMAX screens. So for me, I lost out on seeing every movie since The Force Awakens. So that's Rogue One, Solo, Last Jedi, Force Awakens. I haven't seen any of those in IMAX.
Really?
Because I had to see it that night, and all the IMAX screens were full, or they were too far away, and I couldn't make it, etc. So for me, it was so important. Being in San Antonio, Texas, there got to be some IMAX screens. And it all worked out beautifully. So this will be my first time seeing Star Wars on an IMAX screen for the first time, because I did see The Force Awakens in IMAX later.
I know what you're saying.
But, and I wanted it, if I was going to see this one, I wanted it to be all the right stuff. A sold out movie at 7 p.m. on a Thursday night. Like, that was what I wanted, and I got it. And it's good to know that it's there.
So I haven't bought tickets yet. I probably will, and I probably will buy them ahead of time. But it's one of those things where, like, I have to have a conversation with Brita and say, do you want to go see this at the same time? Because a 7 o'clock show on a Thursday night means we're not going to get home until like 11 o'clock at night. And so I got to get a babysitter for a Thursday night that can be there that late. Mm-hmm. And so that either means like my mom, and I got to convince my mom to stay up that late, or I got to figure something else out. And it's kind of hard too when like a lot of our babysitters are young women between the ages of like 12 and like 16, 17.
Yeah.
Because they've got school the next day, and they're going to have to, they're going to have to get some reasonable sleep because they've got to get up and this and that. And so like it becomes hard to do that. So what inevitably happens on a lot of these bigger movies is I'll get a ticket to go see it like Thursday night, and then Brita and I will go see it either Friday or Saturday night together.
Right.
That happens quite frequently.
Yeah.
But I have to have that conversation. Like, I can't just buy a ticket for myself without talking to her first, because if she really does want to go opening night, then we have to, make that plan and figure out the sitter situation.
Yes, there are arrangements that have to be made, which definitely has been a problem for us in the past. Now that we have my family here and it's this close to Christmas, so we're having even more family here, it was less of an issue. It was more like who's taking shift 1, who's seeing it opening night, who's taking shift 2 and seeing it Friday morning.
Right.
And basically it was split into who cares about Star Wars most and who cares about Star Wars just a little bit less than those of us who care about it like really a lot. So that dilemma is the real thing. We had to find a babysitter who was like 14 years old to see Rogue One at like 11 p.m. Ooh. And we had to find a chill family, which we did, a cool family who was like, yeah, she could stay out that long. Doesn't bother me. So that was good. We got lucky on that one.
Yeah.
they're a good family here, and she was willing to stay up. Emmy was asleep the whole time. Obviously, the movie was at 11, but yeah, I get it. There are logistical things that people with kids, you know, a lot of the listeners of our podcast, including ourselves, have to take into account before we just, oh yeah, I'm going to see a movie this weekend. Nope, you're not in college anymore, buddy.
Yeah, exactly.
You can't just go see a movie. Like, what's that like?
Yep.
I get it.
I hear you. Yep, I hear you. So I know I will get tickets. It's just a matter of what Burrito wants to do, and we'll figure that out. I'm not worried about it. But so let's talk though about the trailer.
Yes.
Let's talk about the things we saw, because I think there's some things in this trailer that were dropped in there that are in the movie literally as like little nods, Easter eggs, you know, a little tip of the cap to longtime fans.
Okay, so hit me with them.
So one of the first
you saw.
One of the first things I noticed, like right off the bat, is that we see Rey running through like a forest area, and she drops a helmet.
Yes.
And it literally looks exactly like the helmet that Princess Leia wore on the forest moon of Endor in Return of the Jedi. Now, for other reasons I will get into later, I'm positive that that's actually where this is taking place, is on the forest moon of Endor.
That was same thought. Almost immediately when that helmet dropped, I went, "Oh, they're on Endor."
Right. Now, obviously, that helmet could just be used in any sort of forest planet that the Rebel Alliance used way back when.
Right.
But for some other reasons, though, I do believe this is the forest moon of Endor, and I also think that this is more of a she comes across this helmet, not she's actually going to be wearing this helmet through the movie.
Okay.
It's more like maybe she's somewhere and she finds it, and then something happens that either frightens her or she has to run, and then she drops that.
Right.
I don't know what you thought about that, or if you're kind of on the same page, but
I'm not reading into it as much as to if she's going to wear the helmet or where she found it. To me, it's almost as if she was like kicking it to me. Like she may have picked it up and looked at it, but like you said, like a nod to us who know and love the original trilogy, just a fun throw in. I doubt that she'll know it's Leia's. I doubt that she'll like wear it. I think it will just be on the forest moon. They'll be, oh, okay, this is how cool, kind of a thing.
yeah.
I think we'll get a lot of, oh, how cool, and then a lot of tears. That's what I think is going to happen in this movie. I think JJ's really going to... Anyway, so yes, that first part where she's running was really cool, and you've got Finn talking about,
doing the
it's an
voiceover.
instinct, and he talks about the Force bringing them together, presumably, right? What we're supposed to think when we're watching the trailer is this is about Finn and Rey.
Right.
That have been brought together, which to me was interesting because Finn doesn't know a lot about the Force. Obviously, we learned that in The Force Awakens from Harrison Ford, who knows more about the Force, who still doesn't know that much about the Force.
Right.
So
that's not how it works.
That was such a great movie, y'all. That I can't. Anyway, it was interesting to me because I've always wanted and even believed, it doesn't really matter that much to me, but that Finn really does have some type of Force sensitivity to him. And I hope that we get a little bit of that. Not that he needs to move a mountain or he needs to do, some lightsaber trick, because we know he's not super great at lightsabers. We already saw that, but he'd had no training. I don't know. Maybe more like a Maz Kanata connection to the Force where he can understand things, or the monk in Rogue One where he doesn't necessarily wield it to his advantage, but he's one with it. I don't know. Mm-hmm. That's kind of the thing that for that first little portion, for me, it was about Finn. Like, I want Finn to have such a major role in this movie because to me, he is such an awesome character who was just devastatingly underutilized in The Last Jedi.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
I want him to just kill it, right? I want him to kill it. I want him to,
He's doing all the voiceover work when we see like Rey like running through like the forest, and she jumps over the log, and then it cuts like it's a super cut to like her jumping inside of what looks like the Death Star, the remains of the Death Star. Now, in the previous ones we've seen, it looks like big chunks of the Death Star crashed into the forest moon of Endor.
Yep.
And it shows it looks like she's there, right? And so there's kind of that going on, and then that it kind of cuts over to a shot of Poe giving some sort of like rousing speech, like trying to like kind of whip the rebellion, into like this, we're going to go on this final victory, this final onslaught, this final attempt at whatever. What was interesting about that to me was you can see Lando Calrissian sitting in this shot, sitting pretty close up front next to Chewie, listening to this. And I'm really curious as how they're going to bring Lando back in. Because obviously, Lando Calrissian, your son's namesake, fan favorite, played an important role in Empire Strikes Back, but it was a very minor role. But then in Return of the Jedi, now he's kind of been sucked into the rebellion, and he ends up going on the final attack on the Death Star there, over the forest moon of Endor. And, hence General Calrissian. So we see him there. I'm curious as to how he gets sucked back in, because we haven't seen him in any of the previous two movies. So they're going to have to find a way to like suck his character back in. And we see him like sitting in the cockpit of the Millennium Falcon with Chewbacca.
Yep.
Once again, it echoes back to Return of the Jedi for sure. But I don't know how that happens. But I'm glad that it is happening. Just because,
yes,
Billy D. Williams. I mean, come on.
If he's still alive, if there's anybody who played a character in the original trilogy that's still alive and wants to do it, they should be in this movie in some form. That's my opinion. So when they were kind of teasing that the trailer was coming out tonight, there was a 15-second clip that was on Twitter and other places where part of it showed the Millennium Falcon kind of descending in space, and then there's like hundreds of Rebellion ships.
Right, yep.
Just tons of them. And you can see what people are saying is the Ghost over on the right from Star Wars Rebels, which is a really cool, another one of those nods. But when I'm looking at those ships and I'm going, okay, well, when we last left the Rebellion, there was like 8 people and like 2 droids. I think my hope, right? And this is the close of a saga. I mean, this is the end of a lot of our childhoods in a sense, right? I'm hoping that they really do bring back as many, even if it seems sappy or they're pulling at our tugs or pulling at our heartstrings. I want it. I'm just saying that's what I want. I want Wedge. I want like these random characters that we hear about and we know who they are, but we haven't seen them in such a long time, or somebody from the prequels to show up and really tie it. It has to tie together. We have to understand that this is the end of a 3-act play, and typically at the end of a 3-act play, you get conclusion from all 3 acts.
Resolution, yeah.
Right? And so there has to be, as much as people want to hate and crap on the prequels are important in their own right, and they tell a very important story, which I still love. And I want to see some of them back as well. I just am so curious to see you talking about bringing back Billy D. Williams, which is fantastic. And how they're going to pull him in, I don't know. But I'm just hoping we see the generations continue to come back and be in that final battle, right? Hand in hand, side by side. Whether you're Jar Jar Binks, let's hope they don't bring Jar Jar back.
Ugh.
What if Watto comes back?
Yeah.
I was trying to think of the prequels and who they could bring back that would make sense, because most of them are dead because of Order 66, so it's hard to think, oh, well, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, most of the Jedi, the Jedis aren't going to be coming back. You're not going to get anyone really from Rogue One coming back.
They're all dead.
Yeah.
Suicide mission.
Yeah, you're not going to get a lot. Like, you may get, like, I don't know, maybe... even like things like General Madine and stuff like that. Like,
we'll get Force Ghosts.
Wedge,
we're going to, but that's about it.
Wedge,
we got to get Wedge.
Yeah, Wedge, Admiral Akbar.
He's dead.
Oh, true.
In the dumbest way possible. We didn't even get to see him die. They just said he died. Thanks a lot, Rian Johnson. I love that movie, but gosh.
So here's something. It was in the next shot. We see a ship flying really, really low. It looks like Tantive 4. It looks like the ship that Leia was originally on when she was, on a consular mission to Alderaan, right?
Yep.
here's the thing I was thinking about, though, because that's obviously a much older ship. What if they take kind of the storyline from the Timothy Zahn books, where I think it was in Dark Force Rising, they start talking about this idea of like the Katana fleet, which was a bunch of Galaxy-class dreadnoughts from the time of the Clone Wars that were all kind of slaved together, so they would all make one big hyperspace jump at the same time that went wrong, and they jumped out into nowhere and like they were just lost.
Okay.
What if in all this intervening time, Billy D. Williams' Lando has been, searching for this because it would be a huge payday, and he finds the Katana fleet and realizes, that the rebellion, the New Republic, which is now the Rebellion, basically the old Rebel Alliance, is so outgunned that he decides to basically loan them the Katana fleet.
Okay.
In a way. So, like, I'm trying to think, like, some way, like, you're going to tie him back in, because he's going to have his own motives, and it's got to be, financially motivated, because that's kind of Lando.
Yep.
So, I don't know. I thought about that a little bit when I saw that older ship flying really, really low, because we do see a little bit later on, there's a whole bunch of, like, space battle stuff, and the shot is packed with, like, literally thousands of spaceships.
So many.
Crazy. Where in the galaxy would they come up with that many spaceships when in the previous two films they're basically on the run, running for their lives once again?
Yeah.
Something's going to happen, and I think Lando's going to play a part in that.
Yeah, I like that. I think that's cool. Isn't Lando's daughter in this movie?
Oh, I don't know about that.
I thought Lando's daughter was in this movie. I could be wrong, though. I thought they cast her as Lando's daughter. Now I'm going to have to look that up as you tell us what happens next in the trailer.
Okay, so next in the trailer you see a shot of the showdown between Rey and Kylo Ren on the Death Star, but like it's in like the ocean with all the waves like, crashing around them. Obviously, like the tone that was set in The Last Jedi, you kind of get this idea that like maybe the two of them, after they take down Supreme Leader Snoke, maybe the two of them are going to be on the same side. Maybe they're not going to be. Like, there's kind of this, like,
yes,
will they, won't they kind of work together and, buck all the trends and, da-da-da-da-da. But here, like, it's a big showdown.
Yeah.
And they're going at it.
Yeah.
And so that was really cool. I really like that. Visually, it looks amazing.
Oh, my gosh.
But I have a feeling that, like, that's going to be towards the end of the film, because where we saw them at the end of The Last Jedi, they were still kind of, I'm trying to remember, but they were still kind of on pretty decent terms with one another, as I recall.
I mean, kind of. He did just try and kill Luke, and he was blasting them into oblivion, and he had taken control of the First Order. So I don't know how good of terms they were on.
Right.
They were still able to communicate, though.
Right, yeah,
through
exactly.
their little force connection.
Force Skype.
Yeah.
So there's that. Then we see a big ice planet. And this, or maybe not even ice planet, but maybe like some sort of ice.
It's important. I'll tell you
island.
right now. That's important.
It looks like the Fortress of Solitude
it
from
does.
Superman. That was my first thought. I was like, I've seen this before.
I think this ice planet, this is on some type of ice planet. I don't know what this chunk is, but it's massively important.
Yep.
From what I can tell in the trailer, it is like, obviously it's important from that shot because you see about 150 TIE fighters going towards it.
Yeah.
But there's later shots where it is alluded to the fact that it's cold.
Yep.
We'll talk about the 3PO shot coming up, but they're all wearing jackets, and in every other place they're not, so this is happening. And then other things transpire in this trailer with ice breaking, and this, to me, I think this is where this is big time.
So, like, right after you see that shot, though, Matt, you see a shot of a throne.
Yes!
And this throne also has, like, a whole bunch of, like, it's rock, but it also has a whole bunch of, like, these jagged, like, spires coming out of the back of it, which looked a lot like how the ice was in the previous shot we saw. However, even if even if the voiceover, and I'll get to the voiceover in a second, even if the voiceover hadn't been there, I recognize the general design of that throne immediately because it looks almost identical to the throne from the throne room on the Death Star from Return of the Jedi that the Emperor sits on.
Yep.
I mean, it's mistakenly clean and clear cut that that's what that is.
Absolutely. And I think that this is all at the ice planet. I'm not sure how he survived this or how he is alive or what his role exactly is. But this is all a huge, that is part of it.
So, right. So we get the voiceover of the Emperor while they're showing this.
Yep.
Now, two things. One, we've never seen the Emperor in any of the trailers. We've only heard the voiceover.
Right.
Two, we do see a shot of Rey looking at someone in the throne, sitting kind of on that throne. We hear the sound of the Emperor laughing, and you see just a little bit of a black cloak pulled up over someone's head.
Yes.
However, this could lead a lot of people to think it's the Emperor. I think it's Kylo Ren.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why. I don't think that the Emperor is actually going to be a living character in this. What I think is going to happen, which also was kind of laid in one of those Timothy Zahn books, I think it was in the third of the original trilogy he wrote, when in that book Leia basically goes to the Forest Moon of Endor to try to find some sort of connection to the Force, and it was somewhere she knows, but like when she passes this one point in space, she has this horrible, like, premonition. She feels this darkness come over her for just a minute or two, and then it passes. And eventually she realizes that was the exact spot in space when the Emperor was killed and the Death Star blew up. And so it's kind of like a Force echo, like a Force ghost, similar to kind of the dark cave on Dagobah.
Okay.
Where a dark Jedi had died and like his kind of presence was still kind of felt there, which is what Yoda used to kind of hide himself, on Dagobah. So what I think it is that if this is the Forest Moon of Endor, like we think it is, there, and if this is all going on, maybe this is some sort of forced ghost, force remnant, force residue left of the Emperor, because the Emperor was literally like the full-on Sith, full of hatred, like, that powered everything that he did. Mm-hmm. And knowing that the Force is all about balance, if there's still echoes of, for at least for a time, right? There was echoes of Yoda as a Force ghost.
Right.
Anakin as a Force ghost. Why wouldn't there be echoes of a Sith Lord?
Agreed completely on that.
That's just my thinking on this.
Okay. I'm okay with that. I think he's going to be around.
You think he's alive?
The only reason I say that I think he's alive is because if he's not, people will be disappointed. That's the only reason. I'm okay with him not being alive, but I don't know if you tease it at the end of the last trailer with the cackle, and then you and with the voiceover saying something about nothing's ever really gone,
right?
Or no one's ever really gone, and then the cackle, and then you have this trailer. You show the throne, you hear his voice, and then you see Rey looking up at a figure in a cloak in the throne. Yep. I don't know if they do. That's a very gutsy move.
I also have a theory. If that is the Emperor, I have a theory for how that works as well.
Well, I don't want to know.
It's a clone.
Well, yeah, okay, yes, I agree with that.
It's a clone of the Emperor,
right?
Which, in some of the other books, once again, stuff that's like all like not canon, stuff that was all kind of the extended universe. It's now all kind of legacy stuff. In the same Timothy Zahn stuff, the Emperor had a secret cloning facility, the Mount Tantus facility, where he was trying to clone Jedi. He was trying to clone an old Jedi master named Jorah C'baoth. And there's no reason why, because the Emperor was around at the time of the cloning and during the Clone Wars, and he was the, Supreme Chancellor, there's no reason to think that he couldn't have gotten the technology that the Caminos had and stashed it off somewhere.
Yes.
Trying to plan for an eventuality that eventually the Force would try to balance itself out and he would be overthrown.
Right.
So
there's so many. That could be. Certainly could be.
JJ could go either one of two ways. One is the Force Ghost, the residue, whatever, or two, we actually have an Emperor here. Some Palpatine somehow either A, survived, which don't do the survived thing. Like, that would be just so disingenuous to what happened beforehand.
Right.
But if you do the clone thing, they easily could tie that in, and then it's like, oh, we've got this. However, I don't want to know of a clone of the Emperor at the last movie of the Skywalker saga. Also knowing that we're not going to get another Star Wars movie until 2022. It's going to be like 3 years, and we're going to start going in different directions now. We're going to tell some other stories. We're going to get away from the Skywalker clan, so to speak. So, yeah, I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's a big we'll see.
We'll see. All of these things are we'll see. This is pure speculation, but boy, is it fun to speculate.
What did you think about when C-3PO says, "I'm taking a last look at my friends"? What did you think of that?
Okay, so I'm going to say three things. So it's what I predicted when his eyes were red in the previous trailer, that they have reprogrammed him to either infiltrate what's happening and be bad, or they have turned off all of his caution and made him a warrior because they need more warriors. So I think, to me, that confirms that that's what they are doing, because he's all wired up and they're working on him, and he's saying something as if he's about to, droid die.
Right.
Now, this is when I first saw this, I almost cried.
It's emotional.
It was oh my gosh. And you realize 3PO has been there and seen all of it. The whole, just like us, right? As the viewer, right? We've been there and we've seen all of it. All the ups and the downs, the good and the bad, people turning from good to bad, from bad to good. And he's seen it all. And I don't know that he's even just talking. Not only that,
but Anakin made him.
Yeah.
So he has literally been intimately involved with Skywalkers since he was built.
It's so true. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for what this movie could be. Anyway, but it was extremely emotional. I wanted to cry. I felt, because obviously he's looking at people that he only knows kind of well, I feel like. Right? He's looking at Rey and Finn, like, they're like cool, and they've probably done some stuff together. But then Chewbacca's there. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see everyone that's there, right? I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see Lando there, or if we didn't see Luke there as a Force Ghost. R2 definitely there. And so I think there's going to be more emotional impact than even what they're showing there, right? They don't want to spoil who else may be in that room. Maybe Princess Leia's there. There's a whole lot of... Because that could be like the moment, right, where... kind of the heartstring moment. There's going to be many of those moments, and I know that there will be. And I know my mom will be sitting next to me bawling like a freaking child. Like she did at the end of The Last Jedi when Luke Force died. She just was inconsolable. I'm like, okay, lady, we're in public. Right. Like, calm down, Mom.
Easy now, easy.
But I loved it. I am so excited. I'm glad that they chose him to do it. The voice work was so great. It was so emotional, so impactful. It was amazing.
Yep. I saw a shot like right after kind of the whole like last look line by C-3PO of like Finn, Poe, and Chewie running through a corridor that looks very similar to some of the looks of the corridors of like the Death Star, maybe the Star Killer base.
Yes.
Like now, I don't think that really necessarily entails like some big new Death Star, because gosh, I hope we're not doing that again.
Right. It's JJ, we might.
Right, you never know. But what I do like though is like it has very much like the tone and feel of this is what the Empire has. This is like their architecture. This is how things are built for them. They're using the same, basically the same kind of design and schema and whatever. And so that's just kind of like, for me, it's just an establishing shot that's put into the trailer that gives you a little bit of action, but really tries to help drive home this is going to feel very familiar to you type of emotion. And I loved it. Like, I thought that was a great little shot.
And the music right after 3PO says his thing, right? And we get that shot you're talking about, which is very nostalgic, right? That's a corridor we've seen in Rogue One, right? We've seen it in the original trilogy. We've seen those corridors at Starkiller Base, and we know exactly what's happening, and they're gunning down stormtroopers, right? It's like, this is classic Star Wars, and the song playing in the background in this epic finale type way, it just, you can't help but feel moved. I mean, it's so good.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was awesome.
After that, we get some voiceover by Luke Skywalker. And I wrote down this quote because I thought this was great. He says, "Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi."
Oh,
and like,
I got the chills.
like he's saying that as you see like BB-8 in like this like little like basket, maybe, you know, this thing, but like, I don't know what that was, but just the fear is the destiny of a Jedi. Confronting fear is the destiny of a Jedi. There's like, oh man, like, ooh, like it's hitting hard, because it was like this whole trailer had a bunch of different voiceover work, right?
Yeah.
And to kind of end with Luke, I thought was great. The next thing I wrote down was horses ?
Horses in space riding on top of like Star Destroyers?
Yeah, that for me was a little weird, because it's like, okay, we've seen a lot of different aliens and life, you know, life creatures and beings and whatever.
Yeah.
You know, banthas and, you know, I don't know, just all the different stuff, dewbacks and whatever. But horses feels like the most like, this is Earth type of an Earth animal than we've seen in any Star Wars.
Yeah.
I don't know what that is, and the young woman that's riding on this horse leading, I don't know, some sort of charge. We don't really know much about her.
No.
This is kind of the first time we've seen her in any of the trailers, but she looks like she's leading like quite a big force, and it does look like they're galloping on like a Star Destroyer. I don't know. I just kind of wrote down horses ? Because I went, what is going on here?
I don't know. That was wild, though. At first, I was like, okay, they're horses. And then I looked at where they were, and I was like, in space.
Right.
Riding on like the wing of that was weird.
And everyone riding on them doesn't have some sort of like oxygen mask on or anything.
Nothing.
Yeah.
They're just going for it. So, okay. Well, man, we're just making up rules all over the place.
Right. I did see, like right after the horses was a shot of Kylo Ren and Rey smashing what looks to be like the helmet and the stand of Darth Vader in kind of like this white room that looked very reminiscent of like the pod that Darth Vader used to
totally
like,
is.
be in.
I paused it at that exact frame because I was trying to figure out what they were smashing. I knew that was Vader's helmet, but was it like a model of him or something?
I think it's the one Kylo Ren has.
Yes. Even if you go back and I pause it at the exact frame that it changes over, they purposefully cut it so you could not clearly see exactly what it was. But you can clearly see it's in an all-white room, and you can see the little egg thing he was in, you know? Mm-hmm, how they've got the teeth? That was in the background. However, my thought, obviously when you first see this trailer, you think, oh, they broke it together. My thought is, no, this is a misdirect. This has not happened together. They were fighting because I can see some debris on the right as if they had already been fighting again in some way. And to me, it's like
go back and look at that.
They both fought and they almost accidentally hit it. And Rey in her right hand has her lightsaber. In her left hand, she has some dagger. So you have to go back. You have to go real slow. 0.25 on YouTube, highest resolution you can get, and pause. But she's definitely holding like a dagger in her left hand, lightsaber in her right, and it looks to me like they came to blows. And when swords go against each other, and then one of them lets go, and they both kind of let it go, and it destroyed this. Looked like this monument to Darth Vader. That's what it looked like to me. But again,
Yeah.
I could be wrong. I've been wrong in the past. I was wrong about everything in The Last Jedi. So
Well,
who knows?
a lot of people were. The last thing we saw then is what we kind of talked about before: Rey looking at the throne, someone sitting on it, the Emperor voiceover with laughing, and then it just kind of ends. And get hype, like you were saying. It's been a while since we've heard anything about Rise of Skywalker.
Yeah.
And that's the final trailer.
Yep.
What are your overall impressions of the final trailer? Does it do what it's supposed to do?
Yes. To me, it did. It did everything that I wanted it to do. I wanted to make sure, what I was looking for in this trailer was, I wanted to make sure that JJ knew, he's been talking it, I know that, but that this trailer was cut in a way that made me know that this is the end. This is the finale. This is how everything comes together, and there is just a massive battle and a massive conclusion to this 30-year-old story. And to me, this trailer gave me that, right? With 3PO's line, and then with the sweeping music, it just feels like it's John Williams saying, okay, we played this song a bunch of different ways, but this is the definitive, final way that we're going to play it. And to me, it was everything that I wanted in a trailer.
I thought the trailer was wonderful. I've only seen it a few times because, like I said, it dropped right before the podcast.
Yeah.
And I had to watch it and try to take notes and, try to break it down for the podcast. But, man, I think it did exactly what it needed to do. It's reinvigorated my hype and the fact that this movie comes out in, 2 months. And I was almost starting to forget that it was coming out because I hadn't seen or heard anything about it in a little while. So I loved it. I thought it was great. Obviously, tickets did go on sale today. You got yours. I'm going to be getting mine probably a little later after the podcast is done recording. But they also released the new movie poster. And I pulled up the image here to take a look at it. And it's kind of interesting because it's kind of like the Star Wars movie posters have kind of been, where you've got a big image kind of in the way background of, someone's, in previous ones it's been Darth Vader or, maybe the Emperor or whatever. But in this one it's Kylo Ren. And then you see part of the Millennium Falcon, and you see, Star Destroyers and advanced TIE Fighters and this, that, and the other kind of in the upper left-hand corner. And then Rey. Rey is, probably the most prominent character other than kind of the half helmet of Kylo we see. And then it's, kind of the characters kind of get smaller as it kind of goes down to the bottom of the poster. And we see Poe and Finn and Chewie and Lando and this woman riding this space horse. C-3PO, R2, BB-8. We see Rose, which I know Rose was big in The Last Jedi, but not there. And we see what looks like a shot of Rey and Kylo fighting. You know who's not on this movie poster?
Tell me.
Princess Leia.
Yeah.
And we know she's in this, and obviously we know Carrie Fisher died before the final filming of this was completely done, so they're going to use some other footage and whatnot of her. But I thought that she would have at least had a spot on the movie poster.
Yeah, I thought maybe Luke might too.
I thought that too.
Because we know he's in it, obviously. He even did voiceovers. So I thought maybe he'd be in it. And I am surprised that Rose is in it. A little bit. Mostly because I don't like the character Rose. She's a fine actress. I have nothing against her. I have nothing against her being a woman or an Asian. And I know that's what everybody's freaking out about on the forums. I just don't like her character.
I think that I like I said, I thought she did a great job. The actress did a great job.
No, she was great.
But her character wasn't given a lot of impactful things to do. So her character felt kind of like a little, just like a little extra piece that was just kind of tacked in and added on, unfortunately.
Right.
I hope that JJ writes her a much more meaningful role in this film, to really show yes, there was a reason why she was introduced in the last film.
Right.
And we needed her because XYZ that happens in this film and really kind of does a little bit on the redemption of her for the actress.
Right.
A little bit of redemption for that character and for the character she played and portrayed.
Yep.
Because I know she
took a lot of heat, man.
A lot of heat. Unfair, undeserved heat.
Totally. She didn't write the character. Dang,
right,
man.
Yeah, exactly. She's an actress, and she was asked to be in a Star Wars movie. Who would not say yes to that?
No. I'm interested on this poster about, I believe that's Carrie Russell's character wielding the double musket situation.
She's got that helmet on, and we can't see who's there. I forget that Carrie Russell's in this too.
That's her. And that's going to be, I am so interested to see who she is. I assume she's going to be good, but yeah, like a good bounty hunter of some sort. Maybe a bad bounty hunter. I don't know. And the rumor that I was reading was that the horse lady is Lando's daughter. That's what the rumors were at the beginning of this year. And so I was operating under that assumption still nothing confirmed on that front. But I could see how that may get Lando involved as well. If she's very, into the resistance and she wants to help. And she's like, I know someone. My papa. Or grandpa, because he's pretty old and she's pretty young. Right. So who knows?
Hey, Lando's pretty suave and smooth with the ladies.
That's true. That's a good point. He was probably having kids well into his 70s.
Just saying.
But it'll be interesting to see who those two characters are, those two additions. Especially that Carrie Russell character. She looks cool. She looks like the Rocketeer, kind of.
A little bit.
Just the helmet situation. Whew.
Well, all I know is December 20th is literally like 2 months away, and I'm going to be looking forward to this Christmas time because it's going to be Christmas, but also because it's Star Wars.
It's Star Wars time, y'all.
Yes. And we really do have a lot to look forward to with the Star Wars stuff. I mean, we obviously after Rise of Skywalker, we don't get another Star Wars movie for 3 years, and the direction of that's going to change, and it's going to be different stories. But we are still going to be getting like The Mandalorian and other Star Wars related stuff on Disney Plus in the interim. So
yes.
Star Wars is still going to be going on.
Yes.
Just not on the big screen. And I think a break is good.
A break is good. They need to figure out how they want to go forward instead of, I don't know, shooting from the hip, I feel like.
Yep.
I'm happy with this.
All right, so I think my question this week for our Super Friends is going to be a simple one. Have you purchased your tickets already for Rise of Skywalker? It's a simple question.
Yeah.
I want to know, though, how many people are going to be buying well ahead of time, and I'm just curious as to how many of you Super Friends out there are like Matt and already have their tickets. And by the time the podcast release, probably, are just laughing at people like me who you're going to think, didn't get tickets or whatever, because I'm going to go get tickets later tonight, I promise. But I want to know that. Let us know next week, and we'll read your answers. Also, tell us how hyped you are. Like, did the trailer do it for you? This is a two-parter. A, do you have tickets? B, did this trailer hype you up? Are you ready for this movie? Sound fair, Matt?
Love it.
All right. Well, that's the show tonight. So from all of us here at the Fortress of Nerditude to all of you out there, wherever you may be, may the Force be with you. Always.